Welcome to episode 16 of Marathon Talk, powered by Abbott World Marathon Majors. On this week's show, Dina's pick for the men's race at the TCS London Marathon proves to be spot on. My pick for the women's race does not. But what a race it was. There was a thrilling sprint in the women's wheelchair race, and there was a famous face in amongst the Six-Star Finishers newcomers in London. And we talked to another new Six-Star finisher who's beaten some pretty long odds to make it all the way into the Six-Star Hall of Fame. Right, let's go. Dina, nice to see you again back on the show. It's been a very busy couple of weeks. What have you been up to?
Well, you have been way busier than I have. I sat in the comforts of my home watching the London Marathon, but I feel like we have so much to talk about in this show because that was such an exciting day on the streets of London. I've been nursing my daughter back to health from her broken arm, and she's doing a lot better.
How is that? Is she good?
Yeah.
Is she back, like, moving comfortably and things like that? I guess she's not back on the slopes or anything like that yet.
No, far from. She's still, her range of motion isn't great. She's still in a sling, and I do notice her using her arm a little more, like grabbing things despite. So she's on the mend. Kids heal so quickly. We were able to go on a family hike yesterday up in the snow, and we went to a campsite that we'll be staying at in about 5 weeks. I think it's going to get canceled. It's still under 10 feet of snow. So it has been a crazy winter. The sun's been shining, the snow's been melting, but there is still a lot left in the backcountry. So it looks as though our yearly annual camping trip will not happen this year.
No. So when you know the snow is that deep and then you think, okay, we've got a camping trip planned, how long does typically 10 feet of snow take to melt?
Yeah, I think it's going to have to depend on the weather. I mean, it's sunny and gorgeous out now, but there's snow on the forecast on my phone set for later this week, which is, I think no one in town is ready for that. So, it'll happen. We have another camping trip planned a few weeks after that in a similar location. We love it because it's so close to the house. So it'll eventually happen. But Martin, I feel like I don't want to waste time on talking about my 2 weeks because London was on fire and you were a part of it the entire weekend, hosting the running show right there at the Race Expo. So I'd love to hear from you.
It was busy. Yeah. It was really busy. As we'll hear, 48,599 finishers, biggest ever, record number of finishers at this year's TCS London Marathon. It seemed like all of them and a ton more passed through the running show. Now, the running show at London is held in Docklands area of London, which is east. It's like a big exhibition centre called the Excel, and there's always a great big hall with tons and tons of stuff going on. I spend most of my week on and off a stage with Jeff Whiteman. Dina, you may know Jeff because he's often an announcer at track meets. So the Olympic Games and other track meets, he will call the races. He's also the coach and father to the current 1500 meter world champion, Jake Whiteman. So it's great to work with Jeff a week because he's so knowledgeable. And he knows so much about the event. I think he's done it for something like 32 years.
Right. And his voice is so distinct. Like when you hear his voice, you're like, oh, that's got to be Jeff. Yeah.
So he gets it all. So he introduces me on the stage and I go on and then I do a little bit talking to runners about the week, about their race. I also get to go running a little bit in London, which I don't do so often. So I ran along the Thames path. Very nice. I really enjoyed it. Also got to see a ton of Marathon Talk listeners actually came up to me and said, we love the new format of the show and thanks very much and say hi to Dina and all that kind of stuff.
That's it. So you're keeping your running streak going.
Yeah. I did do some runs and really enjoyed it. Yeah, really enjoyed it. I did also see, which was fantastic, Chrissie Wellington and Sam Perkins.
Oh, awesome.
Which, do you know what? I got a little bit emotional. Actually, it was quite difficult. I saw them at the expo and Chrissie's pushing Sam around and I'd not met Sam, but of course I'd interviewed him for the previous show. And it was difficult because I knew that how much the whole thing meant to him and his whole team were there. So I gave him a hug and wished him good luck. And, the pair of them were fantastic. And then, of course, in the race, it was really tough because if you listen to the interview, the chair was 400 kilograms with Sam in it. They punctured and one of the wheels buckled in the race.
Oh, no.
So it was really, really challenging. And they came over Tower Bridge, as from what I can work out, and having spoken briefly to Chrissie afterwards, they came across Tower Bridge and they were like, we can't finish like this. The chair's not going to finish like this in this capacity. And so Chrissie kind of ran the rest of the race, and it meant that Sam had to take a bit of a shortcut towards the finish line to kind of still complete with a broken chair, and which he did. You know, he crossed the finish line because by the time Chrissie had run like the 6 miles or however much of it was that Sam didn't do, just because of the way London works course-wise, they crossed the course at a particular point, and then they were able to still cross the line, but in the knowledge, you know, that Chrissie ran all of it, but Sam didn't cover all of it. And he said that in his post-race interview. Oh. And he was just devastated. You know, he was crying and saying, this is not what I wanted. And of course, everyone was so proud of him and the whole team. But, you know, sometimes things just don't work out as you wanted them, do they?
Yeah, the marathon is so brutal. So coming over the Tower Bridge is about the halfway point, and that's when his tire punctured.
Yeah, I think they kind of went a bit further and then had to just turn and go back. And I don't think the mechanical is fixable. You know, one of those things you can't control. But credit to them, credit to the team, because sometimes you do have to make brutal decisions, don't you? The rest of it was fun. I met Madison de Rosario, who we'll come on to, went on to a bit of a storming push.
We'll have to get her on our show because you said that she was really, really great.
She was lovely.
To talk to.
Yeah. And Eliud Kipchoge, who always causes a bit of a storm with his security and his entourage when he comes down to the London Marathon Expo, he made a personal appearance. Of course, everybody goes mad to see him and hear him and things like that. So yeah, all in all, it was a pretty bonkers, but a really good week. Shall we talk about the race a little bit?
Yeah, let's talk about the race.
Well, you called it, didn't you? Because it was Kelvin Kiptum. He ran 2:01:53 in Valencia, and he was really the one to watch, and absolutely did he deliver. And yes, before the race, he was your race prediction.
Yeah, and he not only won this race in 2:01:25, a new course record, he beat Eliud Kipchoge's previous course record. And he's so young. He's only 23 years old, so it is going to be insane to watch his career. He's kind of like that confident, quiet runner that just kind of shows up and gets the job done. I was so impressed with his style of racing because he was in the lead the whole time, just kind of leading that group until he decided to go. I think it was at the 30-kilometer mark when he finally surged away. His second half was the fastest ever run in London. He ran 59:45 after having a half marathon under his belt.
Yeah, I mean, and when he went too, it was so decisive. It was like he's sprinting. You know, he's probably sub 4:20 miling and absolutely just going for it. You know, you think, hang on a second, is he just going to keep this up? And he did. And you thought, well, maybe he's putting this massive surge in.
And then he'll settle,
he's going to back it off. He's going to back it off and he's going to settle down. But he didn't. It's like he just kept the gas going, and watching him, his leg turnover and his form, like it really wasn't until like about the 40-kilometer mark when people started to go, actually, if he carries on at this pace, he could break the world record. You know, he did falter a tiny bit in sort of the last couple K, which just meant he just missed it. But 2:01:25, the first ever sub 2:02 in London. So, yeah, I mean, you know, we saw Kipchoge not have a great Boston, and then Kelvin Kiptum just like ripped the roads up in London. So, Yeah, I wonder. It could be time.
When Kelvin went at 30 kilometers, he put 3 minutes on Jeffrey Camworth, the 3-time world champion in the half marathon and the 3-time world cross-country champion, to make a move on somebody and completely destroy him. And Jeffrey ran a personal best that day too. Can you imagine showing up to this race feeling confident? Here's Jeffrey in personal best fitness. He probably knew it. And then just completely destroyed by Kelvin Kiptum once he decided to
thanks
make
very much. He by over half a mile at 30k, he looks at him and thinks, well, I'm just about to put half a mile into you. It's like, whatever, there's only 10k left. What are you on about? And then he goes and does it. So quite a staggering men's race. Although all the talk was about the women's race, wasn't it? You know, all the talk, we'll come on to some of the Brit men a little bit later, but all the talk was about the women's race. And it was both intriguing and exceptional, right? Sifan Hassan was just mind-bogglingly brilliant, but also sort of insane in the way in which the race unfolded. And her post-race interview on the BBC was just captivating and endearing and sort of almost odd, you know? Her final month of training was she was fasting for Ramadan, but then in the race, she stopped twice to stretch out her hip. She dropped 28 seconds behind the leaders. She had a nightmare at a drink station, and then she went on to win in 2:18:33, beating like one of the greatest women's fields ever assembled, including the reigning Olympic champion and the reigning world record holder. Now, Hassan was born in Ethiopia. She represents the Netherlands. She moved there as a 15-year-old refugee. Now, she's got pedigree, right? She's the world record holder in the mile, and she's former world record holder in 10,000 metres. She's got world titles over 1,500 and 10,000, Olympic titles over 5,000 and 10,000 metres. And I must admit, at 25k into the race, like I think it was about then, she started to stretch, like she was on the back of the group and she looked uncomfortable. She kept just sort of touching her hip, but not really doing, touching her hip. And you were thinking, nah, she's working too hard. She didn't look relaxed. She didn't look comfortable. And then out of nowhere, she stopped, right? And stretched. I mean, when do you do that in a marathon? And
ironically, it was the same, her hip flexor. It's the same thing that really wreaked havoc on Eliud Kipchoge in Boston just a week prior, which is really ironic that they both have the same problem. I'll say Sifan Hassan handled it a little better than Kipchoge did to go on and win. But the whole race, watching her, I was just shaking my head. Even commentators, BBC commentators, Steve Cram and Paula Radcliffe suggested like she should call it a day. The Olympics are coming up. She should really, World Championships this year and Olympics next year, she should really save herself and not risk injury. But it was a lesson on how I would say not to run a marathon. You don't fast in your last month of training, and you make sure you've got your fluids down and those are primed and you're not dealing with an injury going into it. I will say, and I don't think anyone would argue with me, she is the greatest distance runner of all time. Her range is insane. You alluded to her 1,500, but she's also run a sub 2-minute 800 meters. She is just unbelievable. I can't wait to see what she does when a marathon goes right.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think the crucial thing for me was she stopped, she stretched, she didn't lose sight of the lead pack. So they were some way ahead, right? They were like 30 seconds ahead. But she got running again. And, at that point, it was almost like that lead pack didn't do enough to bury her. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they didn't do that blood in the water.
They didn't. They needed to think. They kind of relaxed and thought, oh, Hassan's gone. But she hadn't, right? And then, of course, she kept just closing them down. And no one in that lead pack took the race out, pushed the race significantly forward enough that Hassan couldn't close the gap. And they needed to do that. They needed to just take the race away from her. But they couldn't. And so she kept going and she kept going. She got back on, she got back in the pack by 30k. She was almost back in pack. And she also seemed like there was I think it was the last drink station. And you could see, the other elites. I think it was Chepchirchir, the defending champion. I think she kind of drifted over with plenty of time to the other side of the road on the embankment to pick up her bottle, and she kind of knew what she was doing, and you thought, right, okay, they're going to get the drinks. And Hassan did nothing. And then she realised, what are they all doing? And she sort of looked over her shoulder, and then she's like, oh, they've gone to get the drinks. She almost comes to a dead stop, turns around, runs back, gets her drink, then has to catch them up again. Of course, which she did with only a few kilometres to go. And then coming into the mall, they go around St James's and there's these countdowns, like 800 metres to go and things like that, and Buckingham Palace. And it was like, Hassan doesn't know where the finish is. I was watching it thinking, she's not sure. And nobody in the group was putting in enough of a push to drop her. Of course, how do you drop someone that when they won the World 10K back in 2019, finished with a final 1,500 metres in under 4 minutes, right? So what do you do with that? Of course, the answer was they couldn't do anything. And she just let it go at the finish and sprinted to win in 2:18:33, I think it was. 2:18:33. I mean, how unbelievable. After the race, about the kick, she said, when I was kicking, it was like I kicked, and then I thought somebody was going to kick me, I guess, like out-kick her. She said, I couldn't believe it was the finish line. I thought maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a couple of kilometres to go. So I didn't kick 100%. She said, me winning? I can't believe it at all. I was so happy. So she didn't even put a full kick in.
It certainly looked like a full kick from watching it. But I guess if you run a 156 800 meters or a 351 1,500 meters, that has different weight to different people. I loved how shocked she looked at the finish line. She just cupped her mouth. She was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did it. But she beat in her debut, and it was a highly anticipated debut. She beat the Olympic champion, Paris Chepchirchir, the defending champion and world record holder in the 10K, Yelem Zerf-Yuhala of Ethiopia, and the world record holder, Bridget Kosgei, who dropped out very early in the race. So she didn't just win the London Marathon. She destroyed a really top-notch field that was assembled.
She did. We've been speaking about the quality and the depth of women's global marathon running all season. And Sifan Hassan has just come in and gone, hey, hi there, here I am. And all that really good running that you've all done up until this point? Well, I'm just going to destroy you. And that's what happened. So unbelievable. She plans to compete at the World Championships on the track later on in August this year in Budapest. I don't think she's confirmed which event she's going to do. But she did say she's going to run a marathon in the autumn in the US. So Chicago, New York, maybe in November. We'll wait to see, right? We will have our ears open. I was crunching numbers before we jumped on the call, and because I'm already jumping to the Olympic year. I went to Paris this year, and so now my world just jumps to Paris next year. If she tried to do the quadruple, to run the 1,500, the 5 and the 10 and the marathon, in 9 days, she will have run 7 races with a total of 42 miles of racing. Let's make her do it. Gosh. Yeah, that's epic. But I can't believe that anyone's even given that a go. I mean, a double sometimes. I'm going to send it out there in the universe. And so it feels like a whisper in her ears. Yeah. You've just thrown it out there, Dina, right? Anyway, back to a little bit of other interest about London. It was Mo Farah's final marathon. He made that pretty clear before he towed the line, saying, look, I think this is my London goodbye. He came 9th in 2:10:28. I can't imagine he was... I was surprised at Mo, actually. I thought he would spend considerably more time enjoying himself and less time at the sharp end of racing. He was never really at the sharp end of the race. You know, he started off for a while as first Brit, but he lost that place to the brilliant Emil Keres, who ended up finishing in 2:08.07. And then, like, with a K or so to go, Phil Sessman was closing Mo down as well and sort of came caning it past him. And Mo tried to respond, and I sort of almost wanted to see him just sit back, you know, wave and enjoy that special time. But
wave and kiss babies. That's what you wanted to see. But amazing races actually from Phil, who ran a personal best, and Emil. 2:08 is no joke. He trained in Kenya in January, and in his post-race interview said he missed a couple water bottles, but actually felt great until 4K to go. So I'm super excited to see what's coming next for Emil Keres.
Yeah, he was on track to run faster than Steve Jones for a lot of the race, which would have been kind of epic in your debut. Sam Harrison was first Brit female. She ran 2:25.50. That's a huge PB, about a 4-minute PB, I think. She's in great form this year. Olympic qualifying time for her. In the chairs, it was a dominant day for Marcel Hug. He won Boston, of course, so brilliantly. He won London again so brilliantly by 5 minutes. It is looking like he could sweep all 6 races this year. There was quite a lot of talk on the telly about the difference in chair and the new chairs that the different racers were using. Quite expensive from what I could gather, like $30,000, you know, for Hug's chair. And I don't think all of the competitors were in the same style chair. Anyway, he said after the course record wasn't really on my mind before the race yesterday because the weather conditions were difficult. They were raining early on, always hard for, you know, chair racers to kind of tackle the rain, the wind, making the conditions a little more challenging. It was quite a technical race. He was in a group. Then he said, I had a gap to the other athletes. I just went as fast as possible. And in the last part of the marathon, I saw that I was on schedule for a course record. I actually really enjoyed the women's chair race, though.
Yeah, and I think maybe in those conditions, it was tactical races on both sides, because in the women's race, it was tight. 4 of them coming down the mall, and it was Madison De Rosario that got her sprint right as she turned for home and was able to hold off Manuela Schär. So great races there. The reigning Paralympic champion, Madison De Rosario, became the first Australian woman to win the London Marathon in 2018, and she was thrilled to regain her London title last weekend after a stunning sprint finish. It was just a great race. These wheelchair races have been fantastic. Every race, and I'm sad the spring season is over. We have to wait for Berlin in September.
Going to be excited. When I watched Madison kind of come down the finish, I was like, it's like she didn't look like she'd won. You know, they were like sprinting down the finish, and I thought, does she actually know she's won? She sort of looked over her shoulder a little bit at the end. But yeah, brilliant. It was exciting. It was exciting finishes. Second half of the season could produce some real fireworks when we resume in Berlin in the autumn, then Chicago, then New York.
Right, because this spring, 3 different women have won the 3 different races in the wheelchair competition. So it is going to be a really fun fall to follow.
Other 6-star finishers, perhaps one, of course, we've got to mention, is Yuki Kawauchi. Been a long-time fan of Yuki's, the citizen runner from Japan. Produced some amazing marathon results over the course of his career, notably winning, of course, Boston in 2018. But he got his 6-star finishers medal. He didn't compete as an elite, so he did start on the championship start, and he won the mass race, which is brilliant, in 2:13. In fact, when he arrived into the 6-star tent, he'd been so quick that the volunteers who give out the 6-star medals were still getting their briefing for the day. He was so pleased, though, to get his medal. He didn't do the elite race due to racing a couple of other big marathons in close proximity with London, and that's something that the London Marathon don't permit elite athletes to do. So he ran in the mass start to claim his 6-star. So well done, Yuki. There were also 45 world records in the race.
I love some of the stories that come out of the London Marathon. They always are so big on the charity side. There's big numbers produced every year on how many pounds that they raise for charity. But there were some really fun records. Out of 71 attempts, 45 Guinness World Record titles were broken at this year's London Marathon. And everything from the fastest marathon with two runners handcuffed together to the fastest marathon wearing clogs. Could you imagine the loss of toenails there?
Yeah, it was the clog-wearing marathon, right? It was Johannes Tunissen who ran 7:08, 7 hours, 38, wearing clogs. I mean, I hope they were sort of traditional clogs, like big, they must have to be, big, heavy, wooden, like painted clogs. Yeah, brilliant. The two runners chained together were Jack Megan and Daniel Gallagher. They actually handcuffed, I think. They ran 2:53.33.
Yeah, and one of the statistics that was really impressive to me was Claudia Burrow. She was the fastest marathon in a non-racing wheelchair. She pushed 3 hours and 56 seconds. That is just stunningly fast.
Yeah, that's great. Almost as good as Becky Lafford, who ran 3:59.57, right? The fastest marathon wearing wellies, Wellington boots. Can you imagine her sprint finish? Because she'd have seen the clock, right? At 3:59.57, you can guarantee she'd have seen the clock. So she would have been giving it beans down the mall in wellies.
She probably looked as good as Sifan Hassan did in her sprint finish. Like to see a side by.
So here's a question for you. Here's a question for you, Dina, and I apologise, I don't know the answer to this, but have you ever owned a world record?
I have. As a master's runner in the half marathon.
Yes.
And then years ago, I broke Paula Radcliffe's world record in the 5K on the roads.
There you go. I probably should have known the 5K road world record. I was hoping you were going to say not really, and then I could have led you down the way of saying, so come on then. I'm going to ask you anyway. I'll rephrase it. There's still time for you to claim another world record. Having held two. Okay,
well, I'm looking at this list. What do you think is doable to you? Like, I'm thinking, can I run a marathon in wellies? I don't think so. Clogs? Never.
No. You could. Pajamas? What about pajamas?
Pajamas I could do.
2:46.46 wearing pajamas. I mean, there's some definite odd ones in there. I reckon that the quest for you to run another world record is not over. Right? So perhaps I should set you a target to try and run faster than Amy Ellett, who ran 3:37 dressed as a body part, a female body part.
Oh, gross.
I don't know what that was.
I'm picturing a big boob going down the street, paralleling the Thames River. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
We thought we'd have a very short training talk this week. It's based on this. We've seen the spring marathon season. It's been super busy again with hundreds of thousands of runners across the globe completing marathons this spring. But should you have time off after a marathon? So that's today's training talk. How long should you have off running after a marathon? So Dina, when you were racing, is having a proper kind of break after a peak marathon race something that you would do? What did that used to look like?
Yeah, I think before the super shoes came around, a month off completely of training, not just to physically recover from the marathon, but to mentally and emotionally recover from the effort of that big training session, months of putting in the focused work to race day itself and what it drains from us. Since super shoes came around, I think people recover a lot faster, but our adrenal system still needs to recover. So I still really emphasize recovery. We still have to honor that. It's not just our muscles and our joints that need that support, and it gets it through the technology of training and racing shoes. But we need the mental, emotional, and adrenal recovery to also happen. What do you think? Because I feel like you advised runners so well. Last time we talked, you spoke like, don't dwell more than 24 hours. You can be emotional for 24 hours after a bad race, but after that, put it behind you. So do you have a governor for recovery and that's similar?
Well, I do, in the fact that the biggest thing I think people should gain, particularly if it's been a peak marathon. So for some runners, they'll run marathons sometimes what seems like week or month in, month out, but they rarely peak. You know, they just keep churning out like marathon. Now, when you've really put yourself on the line to run a marathon, really as hard as you can, whatever shape that takes for you, like it's really healthy to have a period of transition afterwards where you take that marathon head off and you just put it somewhere else. Because I think, you know, let's say you've had a 12 or a 16 week or sometimes longer build up of real focus into a marathon. That takes so much energy and so much commitment and, you know, just so much focus for an extended period of time that, you know, assuming you don't have another big peak marathon for a while, you should take your foot right off the pedal and have a definite period of transition. So, you know, a month is great. And certainly with some of that initial period with perhaps not no running at all, but I define it as no focused running. So it's almost like you know what, if you want to run, go and run, but keep it under. So I usually say, if you feel like running like the Thursday after a race, up to the Thursday after a race, go for something easy just to move. But if you don't want to, don't. Just don't. If you want to move, do something else. You don't need to run. And then for the second week post-race, just if you are going to run when you want to, run totally to feel and not for more than an hour, you know? And then if you do that for a couple of weeks, it allows you to start to shape your transition back into what you want to do next. It's giving your body a good chance to recover, your mind a chance to refresh itself. And then you can focus on, well, am I moving into a summer season? Am I moving into some speed? Am I moving into track? Am I moving into another marathon in X months' time, or half marathon or 10K or whatever that is? And those future targets kind of reshape what you return to and when. I think my golden rule is to not rush. Sometimes you just don't feel it. You know, you think everywhere still aches, still hurts, and you've got a deep fatigue and you just don't feel. Go on feel. If you're not feeling it, don't return until you feel ready, and then you'll know when it does, because it'll click.
So you say not to rush, but if anyone is like me, my husband's tapping me on the shoulder after a month, like, you got to get out the door and start going again. Like, your vacation is over. So when is it, do you think, what's that timeline where you're like, okay, let's think of a goal and get out the door again? Like, you got to like stop with this off time and get moving.
Well, I think sometimes you can have like a bit of post-marathon sort of blue as well, can't you? And you just need a kick. But it's really important not to do that before you're ready. Because like if you kick yourself too hard to get back out there and it's a forced return before you're really ready, and you do that for a few weeks, and instead of it clicking back in and motivating you, it can increase your frustration and switch you off more, which makes a return to running take even longer, or you get injured, or you get unwell, or you become demotivated, all of those things. So I think there's nothing wrong with a little tester every now and again. So sometimes, like, you know what, let's just drop a small light session in, see how you feel. Like, go do this, and that can, it's like that can restart the car, you know, like with the jump leads. And you go, actually, I am ready again. And you just get through that post-marathon lethargy. Yeah.
And sometimes I know that I need certain types of run to fill my cup, and exploring in a new place always does that for me. So even just picking a new trailhead or a new neighborhood to run through kind of fills me with the excitement and motivation to get going again. So I'm not comparing the times that day that what I was doing a month prior when I was peaking. And your purpose is so important as the motivator to get going again, right? You may have run a PR, so now it's not about running a personal best. It's about wanting to run in a different country. It could be about joining a new group and getting recharged that way. Find a way to keep refreshing it and making it new so that you stay stimulated and stick with the sport for a really long time. It is an absolute dream to have Anthony Butler and Jessie Rix as my guests on this episode of Marathon Talk. They are more than a running couple. They are a team. Anthony is visually impaired and Jessie, his guide. Their story is a powerful one, and they'll share it in the time we have together. Anthony and Jessie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yep.
Yes. I am so thrilled to see you guys go to the Abbott Six-Star medal tent and have that Six-Star medal wrapped around Anthony's neck. Anthony, how was that experience getting your Six-Star in London?
It was good. I've been trying for a few years. I mean, it took me, I think, 10 or 11 marathons to qualify for Boston, so just working that hard at something and finally being able to do it. The pandemic slowed it down a little bit, but I was just thankful that, just had the support, had the resources, and I was able to do it. But I'm happy. I'm really happy it's done.
Yeah. And you talk about that, how big that journey is. It's never just about those 6 marathons. It is so much more than that. So tell us a highlight in that journey. What was something that really, maybe it's something when you crossed that finish line in London, you went back to that moment of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I finally made it to this moment. What's something that stands out along that journey?
I think it was 2019. 2019 was like my best year of running. And I was clocking good times at my races. I got a lot of PRs. Like I went to Iceland to do a half, and I clocked like a 2:03. And I'm like, man, I could do this just for visually impaired people. We only have to get a sub-5 marathon for Boston. So, I hadn't been able to achieve that till then, So 2019, I went to Utah, and I was running, and I'm just not used to like altitude and geography in general. You know what I mean? I just wasn't to world travel, up to a certain point. And I went to Utah to go run a race, and I just bombed. I just didn't have a good time. I had to pull out like a mile 22, and I was really just hurt. I was emotional. I was crying afterwards. I was in the airport, just in tears. The person I was with, he was upset that I didn't finish, and he shared some words, and we exchanged some words, and I was ready to quit. I got back to New York when I was living at the time, and I'm just like, I didn't want to go for a run at all. All my friends, my guides were reaching out like, hey, let's go for a run, and I was just sad and depressed. Like, no, I don't want to run no more. I quit. And I had New York coming up, and New York City Marathon specifically, and I'm just like, I don't want to run no more. And one of my friends called me. She's like, let's go for a run. Come on, you got to go for a run. It was like a Tuesday morning, and we ran like 10 miles. It was clicking. I was still right there, and I felt good, and I did New York after that, and I clocked like a 4:43 or so. And I got my sub-5. I remember crossing the finish line. I was like, PR. And I yelled a couple of expletives. Like, I was just so hyped. And I started crying like a baby. I called Jessie, and I was crying. It's like, you crying? I'm like, yeah, I'm crying, man. I finally did it. And I texted the guy, and partly out of spite. Because I was like, F you, I did this. You know what I mean? Because, But I didn't want to be petty because he is a good person. We share so many good memories, and that's just our relationship. He pushes me because he knows I can do it. He really believes in me, and that's why he pushes me so hard. So, I think that was it. Once I did that, I know I had Boston. I'm like, the other ones I can figure out. I could raise money, I could do whatever, but as long as I get Boston, that's probably the hardest one that people have to get into. So once I did that, I was like, this is actually possible to do all 6. So.
Right. So you went from disappointment and almost like depression to a 10-mile run that you feel amazing to PRing at the New York City Marathon. That's a pretty amazing turnaround. I'll just give you that. But it really shows that the highs that we experience really come from those moments where they only feel so good because of those other moments that we have that leave a sour taste in our mouth. So good for you for making that turnaround so flawlessly. And Jessie, what was that experience like for you in London? 26.2 miles. It was a rainy day.
Yeah.
And how did that feel to just be basically hand in hand along this journey?
I mean, I loved it. We started the day, like you said, it was a rainy day. And at the beginning, we just kind of stood there in the rain along with everyone else. And everyone's looking so sad. And you're like, man, it really kind of gets you down. But then the race start committee, everyone was great. They just got us going. We were supposed to start at 11. We were at the start line at 10:35 and we were going. So they got everyone moving really nicely. It rained pretty much the whole race, but not like a terrible rain. It was kind of nice, and it's like a lot of times London felt like New York to me anyways. Mm-hmm. So, you had those aspects where it was like you felt like you were in London, but then it kind of was like, I kind of feel like I'm at home too. We ran New York so many times and we're super grateful to have had that, but New York will always be home. So it felt great. And knowing too that him and I get to do this together and our daughter's in London with us.
She was there. I didn't realize she was there with you.
Yeah, she was there. So where we go, she goes for the most part anyways. Yeah, but, just knowing all of that and running through these different parts of the city, a beautiful city, amazing spectators, and knowing like our daughter was there and on this like amazing journey with us, but like, for me too, and I tell Anthony all the time, I just love that she's going to grow up knowing like her dad did this. Her mom and dad did this, but her dad got his 6-star and like she was there on that journey with us. So like that's my biggest standout. It maybe isn't part of the race specifically, but the whole thing encompassed together is, I love it.
Yeah, it's almost like a renewed purpose having her there and being able to share travel with, I mean, I know she's less than 1 year old, but to be able to experience the world, they're taking it in already, and to be able to experience the world in that way. I hope you guys continue to travel so that she continues to get that. That's amazing. So your love affair started in New York City. Tell us about when you first met. It hasn't been that long ago, which is crazy that you guys have crammed in so much together over the years, but
it's been about 7 years. It's been about 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us how you met.
She showed up to an Achilles workout.
Yeah.
To guide. Yeah. Right. And I was running with my regulars. I had like some people I usually ran with. It was on a Tuesday night, right? It was a Tuesday workout. Yep. And she came up and I was just like, hey, what's going on? And she was like, hey, and I invited her to run with our crew. Like, hey, just run with our crew. We're just, we're chill. We're just laughing and, just hanging out. And she joined our crew. We exchanged some jokes and stuff like that. And right away, like, I'm very, very, very social. I always wanted to like recruit more guys. So like, hey, give me a phone number. We could just keep running, stuff like that. And I think like that same day, we were going on a trip to Cuba. She wasn't going, my friends was. I was like, hey, come with us to Cuba. She's like, I just met this guy like an hour ago. Like,
not ready.
Oh, man.
Is that how you see it? What was it?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. But when I got to Achilles, I mean, it's a huge group in New York. It's a huge chapter. But like Anthony stood out because he is just like the loudest person there. And so I noticed him right out the gate just because he was loud and everyone around him's having fun and laughing. I'm like, you know what? This is kind of what I came here for. Like to meet other runners, to be a guide. I'd never been a guide before, like learn what that experience is like. But just like, I just need to have fun again, like I was looking to fill a void, I think, in my life. And so it was like, okay, I need to get like-minded people with me right now. So other runners, other people that see the joy in traveling and doing races and things like that. So that's why I went over to Anthony's group he had and I was like, they look like they're having fun. Like, let's go. So yeah, that was pretty much once I joined that first Achilles practice, I just never stopped going after that. And then it turned into more runs and brunches and dating and yeah, it kind of seems like that, right? In the 7 years, but yeah. And then once the pandemic hit, we briefly moved to Minnesota where I'm from and my family lives. And then all of a sudden from there, it was like, okay,
baby,
marriage, baby, moved to Charlotte, and we did it all within like a year. And we're like, you know what?
We're here.
We just ripped that Band-Aid off and we did all the things at the same time.
No.
So many major things at the same time. I'm going to go back to New York before we jump to Charlotte. So New York running community, the Achilles team is so amazing there. There's chapters all over the country. If listeners want to look into that, being a guide, if you're looking for the next love of your life, maybe that's your place to do it. But you were searching for that sense of community and found it there. Tell us why that community is so important. Achilles in general, but just having a community around you of support.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, like, you know, my situation was kind of unique, of course, because like I lost my sight in 2008, and you know I was still trying to like hang out with the same people I used to hang out with before and do some of the same things, but like I just can't do that no more, you know. And there's just certain things that I just couldn't do, you know. Like if times get hard, I can't just go be a barista at Starbucks or work at McDonald's. I can't do that because of my vision loss, you know. It was important for me because I needed to find a life for myself. I need to find my own identity, you know? And when I started going to Achilles, I remember the first day I met this other blind guy who was also African-American, you know? And at first I thought I was like, I'm gonna be the only black guy here, you know? Like I didn't know what to expect, you know? But he was just like, oh, what's up? Whatever. And I'm like, oh, cool. So then I went to his house one day. He had a house party. And it was a whole bunch of like, you know, other people there who had different levels of visual impairments. And like people were dancing and had dogs everywhere and spilling drinks. But like nobody has rhythm. Nobody could dance. It was just like, I didn't know what was happening, you know? And then somebody just came up to me, reached their arm around me, was like, welcome to the blind world. Like, this is what we do. And I'm like, man, it's just like any other world, you know? And that helped me accept like my disability, you know? Because I don't know if I would have accepted it or what my life would have been like if I hadn't like taken that step to join that community, you know? So it helped me like gain my identity and gain confidence and, you know, just live a life that I could be like proud of, you know? So.
Right. And being a part of a community that was much healthier than the community you were a part of before you lost your vision.
1,000%.
Yeah. 1,000%. Yeah. And Jessie, you also needed that community, right? You're a Midwestern girl moving to the big city and just needing to find people that align with your passions. So this must have just been a dream come true to feel like you have purpose, but also be a part of that community.
Definitely. At the time I was working in the fashion industry, which I loved at the beginning, but you know, my interests changed. I grew out of it. So I was kind of, you know, in a space where it was just like, I spent my days talking about colors and fabrics and all that stuff. And it just wasn't for me anymore. And I'm like, okay, this can't be it. This can't be my day to day. So like I said, I needed to fill a void. I think I needed something with some substance in my life. And I had kind of fallen out of running a little bit myself too. So I knew I needed to get back into it. And I knew I needed to fill this void. And I lived near Central Park at the time. And I always saw the Achilles neon yellow shirts, you know, running around and stuff. And so I was like, well, that seems cool. And let's just see what it's about. So I just kind of walked in and joined one day. And everyone was just amazingly warm and welcoming. And, you know, these organizations are important, obviously, for Anthony and anyone living with a disability, but it's like, for everyone too. I mean, I never knew how to guide. I never had really been around anyone living with a disability to even know. I remember after our first practice or whatever, and I was talking to some other people. I was going to go say bye to Anthony, and I kind of hit him on the arm, just saying, all right, we'll see you later. And he was kind of startled by it. And right there, I was like, I forgot, like something as small as that, you forget that he can't see my body language. You know what I mean? So all these little things I've picked up through Anthony, through anyone in Achilles that I've been around, and just learning how to be around different types of people with different abilities and don't see the world the same way as I do. It's shaped my perspective like so much more than I could have ever imagined. So it's like these groups are so important for everyone. Like it's not just for people with disabilities. It's for everyone, I think, to see it, to be a part of it, and to learn and to grow and to shape your own perspective in life. So it's been great. It's been great for sure.
I also love hearing you guys tell stories together. Anytime couples tell stories together, it's always more amusing. So I'd like to hear what that first run was like together, that first training run. I assume it was in Central Park because that was the meeting place on Tuesday night. So what was that first run like together?
Well, I remember Anthony saying he was going to run about 3 miles at a 10-minute pace. So it was like, great, nice social run. And we get out on the pavement and he just like books it. Like we were clocking like 7 or 8. I was like, oh, okay. So
should have limbered up before this, right?
I'm like, let's stretch out for this one. So that's what I really remember. And like Anthony had said before too, he asks a lot of questions. He gets all the information out right out the gate when someone's new. So it was a little bit of like an interview, but
yeah. I mean, you run someone, it's very intimate. When you train, it's very intimate, especially when you're training with someone. And like if I'm training for a marathon with someone, I'm spending like probably like 30, 40 hours a week with this person. It's like a full-time job, right? Like long runs, like a few hours. Do you have all the runs in the week? Yeah. Like you get to really know these people. Like you become like best friends. And that's that you're going to brunch afterwards. Next thing you know, like you're going to birthday parties and like you're involved in their weddings. And it's just like, well, I thought we were just running. Like I didn't know, you know what I mean? So there's so many great relationships that form, not only intimate, but it's really strong like friendships that bond. You know, so so I asked a lot of questions. Yeah, a lot of questions.
Yeah, each of you had to show up each time, but there's a lot of trust involved. What were some of the questions you asked?
What was, what do you do? Where are you from? Like, who are you? And I asked her if she had roommates, but that was my way of asking, like, are you seeing something? You know what I mean? Like, you live alone, you have roommates.
So I had like 7 roommates, I feel like, at the time. I lived with a ton of people.
Yeah. So I tried. So I got the information I needed.
I have 7 roommates, which makes for a really challenging follow-up question, right?
Yeah. So I'm never going to your house, but yeah, sure. Yeah, so cool. Yeah.
So other than Central Park, where is your favorite place to run in New York City?
Oh, man. I think for me, I like Central Park because, and Prospect Park, only because like, it's just safe for me. Like, I don't have to like worry about like bike lanes or like stepping up and down off the curb or all the obstacles that come with navigating like the city, you know? So for me, I just like Central Park the most. It's 6 miles. You could turn off, turn on, water fountains, bathrooms, whatever you need, you know, and see good friends along the way. So for me, it's that. But I do love when New York City has summer streets. Like every Saturday in August, they like shut down Park Avenue, and we could run up and down Park Avenue for like 10 to 12 miles. So I think that's my favorite time of the year when summer streets happen in New York.
Oh, I didn't know that. Is that the same for you, Jessie? What do you like? Where do you like to run in New York?
Central Park is great. Once I had met Anthony, also Anthony is like weirdly like knows every water fountain, every street. He would be running and he's like, oh, we're on 87th Street. And he's like, he knows exactly where he is in Central Park without having any sight. So that alone just makes it for an interesting run. But Central Park is great. It's home. But I love the West Side Highway, running the piers. That's where I would usually clock my long runs in. I lived on the Upper East Side. I would kind of just go to the West Side and just kind of loop myself back up and
If you went real early, you would run like over the Brooklyn Bridge and then run back over the Manhattan Bridge and run up the East Side. You know what I mean? So,
that's a great route too. I mean, there's so many.
That's a lot of territory when you're talking like that.
Yeah. It's cool. It's cool. Man.
Yes,
it's cool.
You get to see a lot of the city and, kind of on your own. And it's, that's something, I don't know, this maybe sounds super cliche, but it's like, I grew up rural Minnesota, didn't really have any neighbors, cornfields were in every direction of mine. So ever since I was young, I wanted to move to New York. And so I would go running on the dirt roads by my house and just literally envision the Brooklyn Bridge and running over the Brooklyn Bridge and just, okay, one day it's going to happen. And I'll never forget that day when it actually happened. And, it's like, it's amazing. Everywhere you can go in New York, and like I said, it's home.
And so now you're in Charlotte, North Carolina. What's the running community like there?
It's been good. It's been good. I mean, we don't have an Achilles chapter out here yet, but we're trying to start one in May.
Great.
So we're going to try to have some people come out. We're trying to round up some athletes and get some guides, but I think we'll have a good turnout once we start. But everybody's been good. Charlotte Running Club, they've been good. The Blackman Run Charlotte chapter out here has been good to us. There's also another tool that I use. It's called United in Stride. So United in Stride is kind of like a website, and it's kind of like a database where like people who are considered able-bodied, people that aren't living with a disability, they go in there and put their information on there. And then people like me who are seeking guides, we go in there and make a profile too. And then we'll reach out to people like, hey, I'm looking for like a guide to either run a race with or just train with. So using that, I kind of connected with some people. And so it's been good. I got some other guides, got some good friends out here, lots of greenways to run on. It's been fun. Yeah, I like it.
Beautiful. And you've already spent summers there. So what are some tips as we're in spring, but approaching summer? What are some tips to running in North Carolina in summertime? Do you know all the water fountains there too?
Not yet.
Bring a Camelback.
Yeah, Camelback. Yeah, there's Camelback for that. Bring lots of water.
Great.
Wake up early. Bring your headlamp because it gets light a little later. Like in New York, it's probably the sun's up like at 5, but down here it's probably like at 6:30. You know what I mean? So bring your headlamp. Get out there early. Find a buddy. Find a group, and let's get the miles in. But start early because it gets hot real early out here.
Yeah, early in a Camelback is really good information. You guys have traveled so much together. Iceland is on my bucket list. I want to run the Reykjavik half marathon so badly. I assume that's the one you did.
That's the one I did. I didn't do it. I did it with my boy Nacho, but it was so much fun. It's an out and back. We did the half. We didn't do the full because just wanted to hang out. But I mean, it was so much fun. You run along the water. It was great seeing all the people out there. And Iceland is just one of the best places on earth. I feel like it's just so amazing. Like seeing the geysers and the volcanoes. And
did you soak in any hot springs?
Oh yeah. We didn't go to the Blue Lagoon. We kind of just drove, and then some people were like in a like geyser, like a geyser like on the side of a road, and we're just gonna jump in that one. It's free. It's not commercialized. It's just jump in there with them. And we just jumped in with some locals on the side of a road, like.
Way better.
Yeah, it was so much. It was so much fun.
Eating reindeer meat or something.
Yeah,
I don't know if they have reindeer.
Fermented shark, and you know what I mean. Like we got the whole. They love hot dogs out there, though, which was very weird. It's like they love hot dogs, but it was cool. It was a very fun experience.
Actually, one of the things I wanted to do was go on a culinary tour of Iceland once I was there for this race. But if hot dogs are their thing, I think I might pass on the culinary tour.
I don't think you'd be too impressed with the car. They're not known for their cuisine. I'll say that much. But it's a good time. But they're not known for their cuisine.
What other memories do you guys have of traveling? You have a favorite place you've been together?
Dublin was fun.
Dublin was great.
Yeah, Dublin was fun.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like almost everywhere we go, by the end of the trip, we're Googling, like, how do we move here? Like, even when we just came from London, the people were so friendly there. And I mean, the weather, we were kind of like, oh, this is an adjustment. But the people were so friendly. And we're like, oh my gosh, like Googling, how do we move to London?
And it's very diverse, right? Like
super
so many,
diverse.
Other interracial couples there.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So it was cool.
So it's hard to pick, but Ireland was great for sure.
Norway was cool too. London, the traffic is just bad, so I just wouldn't want to go because the traffic is bad. But Norway was really
Norway was great.
Norway was fun too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful. You just have all these adventures together, and now you get to share them with your daughter. Anthony, I love that I think it's on your Instagram account. It says leading with love is part of your bio. And I just held my heart as I read that. I loved it. So you have your 6-star medal, Anthony. Jessie, you have Boston, Berlin, and Tokyo to go. Is that next on your bucket list? What do you guys have coming up next?
Well, we're going to do New York City Marathon, not together though. Yeah. She's going to guide another young lady that she runs with sometime. My friend Allison, shout out to Allison, and I'll be running with I call her my New York City Marathon wife, Daniela. It's our 7th New York City Marathon running together. I told her she can't guide anyone else until I die. So
I love it. And it's a really good excuse to just get back to the city too.
Yeah. So we were running New York together. And I don't know. I mean, if she wants to go to Tokyo, whatever, I guess I'll just be babysitting that weekend, and I'll just be with the baby, or maybe we'll all go. We'll see. But, whatever she wants to do.
I was like, okay, if I get into Tokyo next year, like what, Miles would be 2. That could be a tough travel time for a 2-year-old. Mm-hmm. So.
And that's a long trip.
Yeah. Might make that a solo marathon. But if I get in like 10 years, like you said, Tokyo's hard to get into. So if it's next year, she's probably not coming. But if it's 10 years from now, okay, then she can come. Yeah, but otherwise, I don't know. Boston is going to take a lot of training for me to get to that time. Mm-hmm. So that will likely be my last one, because I got to really put in the work. And with a toddler running around, I don't have as much time to get that essential training in.
I mean, the baby's clocking 5-minute miles already.
Yes.
Oh my God.
The baby's going to pace you to your Boston qualifier.
Fast enough already.
That's what I've been saying. I'm like, she is my marathon training, because I don't sit down. Like, she is go all day. Mm-hmm. So
it's more exhausting than marathon training, I feel like.
Yeah.
Especially at the age she is.
Yeah. That's what I told Anthony after we had her. I'm like, you know what? I don't mean this to sound any sort of way, but it's like, marathons are hard work, don't get me wrong, but like the hardest part now is parenting after a marathon, because she's been with us on every trip. So it's not like, it was like the second we're done, okay, time to go. So it's been a different world with her, and the best world, but it's
different. Yeah,
it's busy. Yeah.
When I did the Tokyo Marathon, my daughter was 9, and she cried when we were packing up our bags because she did not want to leave Tokyo. She loved it there so much. I think it's because she ate ramen and sushi every day, and she prayed at a temple to get a certain toy that ended up in a store window, like right as we were exiting the street. So I think it was those few things that had to do with it, but she absolutely loved it. So maybe waiting a little later for Tokyo so she can enjoy it. Yeah. Enjoy the ramen.
Right. Yeah. There's no rush on it. That's for sure. So
yes. So we're getting to our time. I have one last question for you, but is there anything you want to share with our listeners before I get to my last question?
Just check out United in Stride. If you guys want to lend a helping hand to any of us, please just make a profile, United in Stride. It helps us reach out and, we could go set goals for I want to go do the Flying Pig Marathon in Cincinnati. The owner of United in Stride actually did this. He lives in Sacramento. He just wanted to he wanted to do the Flying Pig Marathon. He went on there, reached out to people who were just signed up in the database there, said, hey, I'm going to do this race. Someone guide me. They said, yeah, he just showed up. Had a guide, boom. So it helps us become more flexible and set other goals that we may not have been able to set for ourselves before. So please sign up for United in Stride, find a local Achilles chapter, or, Catapult, Dare to Try, Chicago, Catapult in Texas. There's so many other organizations that help people with different abilities reach their goals. So just reach up, donate time, money, resources, whatever you can, just whatever you can, just help us out for sure.
That's amazing. We'll be sure to share these links when we promote this episode on social media as well, just so that we can give people that nudge, take away that step of finding it on their own and just letting them click and be right there.
Absolutely.
So lastly, your story, both in triumph and in love, reads to me like a movie from the very beginning. And so if it came to that, who would you want to play your role in that blockbuster hit?
Man, I feel right now I have to say Michael B. Jordan, right? I mean, I would have to say Michael B. Jordan. I mean, he's the best looking guy in the world right now. So I will have to give it to Michael B. Jordan.
And he's a little athletic too, so handsome.
He'll make me look good, So Michael B. Jordan, if you're ready, I know he has his own production company. Come on, write the movie, Mike. Write the movie.
Handsome and athletic. You went right to the top. Way to go, Anthony.
Yeah. Who play you?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. Okay, it would have to be, who I love. That okay. I want to go with Blake Lively.
Okay.
She's an all-American. She could play the rural Minnesotan, kind of move to the city, taking it on. And I love her. Yeah, she's just the best. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I couldn't have dreamed up 2 more perfect answers for that question. That's amazing. It's so amazing. Well, what a power couple. Good luck to you both in your 6-star journey, Jessie, and the New York City Marathon to you both, you and the friends you'll be running with. I hope to see you at your movie premiere, or at least on the next starting line. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Dina. Be well. Thank you for your time.
Much.
Great. Right. Well, that's it for the show. Dina, what are you up to for the next couple of weeks?
Oh, well, you know that King Charles's coronation is coming up. So I'm contemplating getting a TV so I'm not watching it on my cell phone or my puny computer. I might get a TV for it. I think it's going to be an amazing event and a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Does this mean you don't have a TV?
No. I mean, we watch things on our computer sometimes.
Yeah, but no TV?
No.
Oh, fascinating. That's interesting. Is that just because you don't want to watch TV normally, or just because you watch it like...
I watch TV in hotels. It's pretty much on the entire time I'm in my hotel room when I'm traveling. But I don't know. I feel like there's so many more ways to engage with family without having a television. So we don't have one.
Great. I am off doing a bit of traveling with Stormbreak. I'm up to Somerset to present at a conference about what we do. Then off to a little county called Bedfordshire, where we've got about 40 schools that we work with. And then off up to Gateshead. I'm also going we're coming into camping season. You were talking about camping, right? And crying off because it's snowing. I mean, gosh, it's coming into summer, so we like to go away. So we've got a few camping trips planned down to Cornwall and away with the kids, and then So I'm
you
looking
still
forward
have
to
a
bit
lot of
camping.
traveling coming up.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've got a lot of work travel in the next month, and then hopefully the summer will be here for proper, and we'll get some fun in. Right, we mustn't also forget before we close the show down, it's the Road to the Majors May Half Marathon that takes place from the 7th to the 14th of May in the Abbott Global Run Club. If you complete this race, the Road to the Majors May Half, then you'll earn yourself an extra place in the Abbott World Marathon Major draw for a major you still need on your 6-star journey. If you're interested in the Road to the Majors May Half, pop over to globalrunclub.com for all the details. We've hoped you have enjoyed the show this week. Enjoy your run wherever it takes you.